Hi, I'm Catherine Bouchard. It's nice to see you again. And I'll be narrating my community development site that I visited last week. The location I decided to visit is the East County Transitional Living Center. This is a brochure of theirs. They are an incredible group of individuals that have a Christ-centered vision and mission to help the homeless in the San Diego area. It's been an interesting conversation to have with the COO. His name is Don Tenval, and Don has been with the program for 13 years. The program itself has been around for 14, and what's really interesting about the program is that it's very self-sustaining. The people that work there have all gone through the program themselves. So let me just tell you a little bit about the program. It started out of the Set Free Ministries, which is a ministry that was targeting homeless people or people in pretty much broken or lost people found in pretty how do I say, pretty overwhelming circumstances. So we have like homelessness, drug and alcohol addiction, gang affiliation, criminal behavior, incarceration, prostitution, and just basic lack of discipline and purpose in their life. So if they met that desperation, they found that they could really restore a life and restore hope in these people. So it was a community that was really set out to go find the homeless and really just share the gospel with them, encourage them. But that turned into the East County Transitional Living Center in '99, and they changed their name in 2009 so that they would be separate from the Set Free Ministries. According to Don, there was something that happened with that ministry that was a little scandalous, so they didn't want to be associated with that name anymore, but they were able to rename themselves, gain more credibility with the state and the county. They have relationships with all the local authorities and the mayor, so they have done very well for themselves. They For the most part, they are a transitional living center for families, young men and women who are in transitional living, and that's single or married, and they really target the lost. So I'm going to just break down kind of the things that are the background for this transitional living center that I learned through my interview with Dawn and my tour there at the Transitional Living Center in El Cajon. So let me just break down the different programs that they have. So they have a men's discipleship program, a women's discipleship program, they have a family restoration program, and transitional living and emergency housing. So the East County Transitional Living Center is a nonprofit corporation, and they're dedicated to ending chronic homelessness, like I talked about. They accomplish this goal through different transitional living centers across the East County location. They have about 5 separate programs, which I just mentioned, and each one is Christ-centered, which I found really inspiring and really encouraging. The whole goal is their mission statement is to provide transitional living centers that meet the needs of all homeless people through both long and short-term cases. They maintain clean, safe facilities that provide individuals and families with temporary housing until they can regain control and purpose of their lives. Their vision is to give hope and a hand up to homeless persons and assisting them into independent living. So they do case programs, which I asked them about if they ever envisioned it being this big, because they house over 300 people and they feed over about 300,000 people a year. So it goes beyond just what they do in their transitional living centers. They actually impact the community around them. So when I asked them if they expected it to ever be this big or if they envisioned it being this way, Dawn responded surprisingly that they really just met the needs as they arose. So when people would say or bring up issues like, well, I would love to work for you guys or work with you guys, because they do a lot of, like I said, they're self-sustaining, so they actually work or employ the people who are in the transitional living center to help them gain better resumes, and they can get back on their feet and get a sense of purpose and have a job and basically rewrite their past, or really rewrite their future. And they work for Qualcomm stadiums, Angel Stadium, all these different stadiums, and hand out food. So, which is great, and they have a great program for that. So with that being the case, they found that a lot of the people that were coming into the program didn't even have birth certificates, so they had to fill that need. So now they provide Social Security, birth certificates, any other documentation that they would need to be hired or get a job. They have implemented programs for that. They've also given the people who stay in these facilities, or the families, the men and women, opportunity to finish their GED. So they also provide education. They provide transportation to the local colleges if that's what they want to accomplish. And out of this program actually birthed a church, a need for a church. So they already have a Christ-centered program, which means that they have Bible studies every day. They have discipleship programs that are fully effective, where they do deep Bible studies. They have baptisms every week of people who want to dedicate their lives to Christ. And then out of all of that, they found that they really wanted to have Sunday morning services that were more traditional. So they built a church next to the Transitional Living Center. So this is a program that wasn't birthed out of a church, but a church was birthed out of a program, which I found so interesting, because if we can meet the need and we can disciple people, then that is creating a church already. And it's funny that the group of people demanded the need for a facility, as opposed to the facility, attracting people, which is what we're typically used to as a church model. So that was incredibly inspiring for me as a seed project. So like I mentioned, they have these different programs, and their mission is, they're really just not interested in throwing away any people. They want to accept all people. The only people they cannot accept, because of the fact that they have children on the site in the facility, are sex offenders. So, but other than that, they really do a really good job helping people from all walks and ways of life get back on their feet. And it really depends on the addiction that they have with how long they spend at the Transitional Living Center. So the other thing that I thought was cool was all the people that work for the Transitional Living Center went through the program. And I think I mentioned that earlier. Don, the COO now, the Director of Community Relations, he was one of the first who went through the program. And he found it so effective that he fell in love with the people. And he said this was my new family. His drug addiction and drug past had completely ruined his past marriage and his past family, where he lost custody of kids and everything. So he has no longer any contact with them, unfortunately, but he was able to rebuild his life and find purpose again. And one story he told me was that a woman got her feet back on the ground within the Transitional Living Center and did actually qualify to get her custody for her kids back from the state. Actually, she lost her kids to foster care and lost privileges with her kids altogether, and she ended up regaining it after fulfilling part of the program at the Transitional Living Center. So that's fantastic to hear. Let's see what else. So family restoration, men's discipleship programs. This is a 1-year Christ-centered program that targets new hope and new life in Christ. And freedom from homelessness and addiction. The requirement to enter this program is just a sincere desire to be free from your old life and be willing to learn how to live as Christ lived. And they have this location that's like a 12-acre farm, and they send these guys who are interested in this program out into this farmland, and they isolate them away from their city or their community that really affected them, especially in their drug use or whatever. So they separate them from that, give them an opportunity to have like a camp life experience that's like a mountaintop experience where you really get to isolate yourself between you, your God, and your community. And it's saturated in that sense. You really have no other distractions other than to just meet with God and restore your life. And I thought that was really encouraging. It's free from, like it says, it's free from temptations. And they're able to take responsibility for their poor choices and allow the Spirit of God to lead them, where they can say, no temptation will cause me to stumble again. So it takes about 3 months typically where these guys go through this program, and then they go back to living at the Transitional Living Center and start their life as a disciple. So they go through this discipleship program, and then from then on, they are actually referred to as a disciple, which is kind of cool because the community is not just Christians, it's Christians and non-Christians. So you have these group of Christians who are living among secular non-Christians, and you have some being referred to as disciples and some just viewed as family members. So I thought that was kind of cool and interesting. And the women's discipleship program is very similar. It's not at a farm. It's at a more local house, and they do a very similar program, but it's actually a year long, and they learn life skills, and they go through therapy, life therapy. A lot of these women are abused, so they go through a lot of emotional therapy. So then they have like the transitional living and then the emergency housing. So if you've been, kicked out of your house because you lost your job, things like that, and you just need a temporary home, they provide that as well. So that would be the different programs that they offer. As far as how this relates to our reading, I asked Dawn specifically the questions that related to the characteristics of the 10 Seed project. And I went through and we kind of identified how each one of those are used within the Transitional Living Center and how they apply. So that was really encouraging. So like the first one, covered in prayer, the senior staff pray every morning when they arrive at work. They have women's prayer meetings where the women discipleship program lead a Bible study every day in the afternoon. They have church on Sunday, which is awesome because it's right next door. So they have that. They have access to that. And like I said, they do baptisms during the week. I think it's once a month, but he said at one point they were doing it once a week because there were so many that wanted to be baptized. Compassionate and non-manipulative. Obviously, these people are deep with compassion, and their job is to be sincere and genuine. So there's no manipulation there. They're motivated by God's intentions in so many ways. They have compassion and grace and so much ability to relate because most of the workers have been through the same experience. They can come to a level of humility with these people and come to terms with kind of the reality of the pain and the suffering and the addiction that they faced. So I think they're definitely motivated by God's intentions because I think God meets us where we're at. He doesn't judge us from this, high and mighty place, which is really important to implement in any project, I think. Thoughtfully planned, absolutely. They had a huge vision, and their vision is continuing to grow. He was telling me as we walked around the compound that, they envision, bigger spaces and larger buildings and revamping of here and there. And they just got a huge grant from Jack in the Box, actually, which was interesting. I guess the CFO or CEO of Jack in the Box's brother went through the program. So they were able to use their year-end donation towards the Transitional Living Center, which is incredible. So they provided air conditioning and heating units for all the facilities. And the facilities there is interesting. They were given the facilities by the owner of a previous owner of Motel 6. So it's basically a Motel 6 facility that they've revamped and recolored and added a playground and, upgraded the pool. So it's actually a really beautiful compound. It doesn't look like a traditional transitional living center, which can kind of look dingy because it's usually funded through donations, which can be scarce. Especially during a time like this. So that was awesome. One thing that didn't really apply was the simple and short. It was a simple concept in the sense that they want to get people off the streets. That's a simple concept, and it's definitely God-centered, but it wasn't short-term at all. It was very long-term and large impact. So then we went to the next one, which is done with local resources. Like I said, it's self-generated revenue, so they raise all their own funds, and they also receive donations from the local community. They have grants with the city and the state, which is awesome, but they also work very hard to help these people reinvent themselves. So they give them jobs outside of the city. So sometimes they'll take buses up to Anaheim and they'll work at the stadium or Dodger Stadium, or Qualcomm is their probably biggest area where they generate revenue. And that was what was said by Dawn. As far as being directed outside the church, absolutely. I mean, most of these people are found outside the church. The only people now that struggle within their church is those who have already been found outside the church. So definitely directed towards those outside the church. And there are non-Christians, again, on the compound. So we have people who are non-believers being surrounded by a community of believers, which is also encouraging. Those who benefit, participate. Definitely the people that are benefiting from this transitional living center, they're participating in doing laundry or helping do the meal programs or paint the facility or whatever needs to be done. They're all hands on deck. They are a team. They are self-motivated, which is really inspiring. These people are so thankful and so grateful. Like I said, from the very beginning, they're asked, do you sincerely want to change? Do you sincerely want your life to be better? If that's the case, then they sign up and they sign on, and they trust that the leaders there are leading them to restoration through the power of God. So that's cool. So definitely those who benefit participate. The last two, spiritual impact where appropriate. Absolutely, we have the Bible studies and the baptisms. And lastly, evaluated by kingdom standards. The Bible is definitely their manual for everything. These are lives of people that they're dealing with, not just a job or not just work. These are people's lives, so they take it really, really seriously. And so the second part of that question that was asked is, how does this relate to the disciplines of love matrix with the context of family, church, and community? We see all ways and walks of life being addressed here. We see wisdom being poured into these people who were so lost at times. One of the most encouraging things for me to see was seeing the women. I walked in on them doing their Bible study in the courtyard, which was really inspiring to see all these women from different age groups and different walks of life and circumstances, and them leading each other in a Bible study. It was just incredibly captivating to see that kind of wisdom poured out over these women. Physically, they are given treatment from the nurses when they originally arrive if they are, relapsing in any way, or not relapsing, what would be the word? When you're coming off of drugs and coming off of alcohol use, you have just symptoms there, and they treat them and they feed them, so they take care of them physically. Obviously, their spiritual needs are met and also nurtured. And then socially, I think the fact that they are a community and they're developing together as a family, and that's really encouraged and also kind of forced in the sense that they're all surrounded in this community development. It really gives them the power that they need to relate to one another, to disciple one another, to keep each other accountable, and also have the opportunity to reach out to those in the community that aren't Christian and in that specific compound, that aren't Christian and that need the Lord, and they can see that. They can see the difference. They are a walking testimony of what God can do in and through their life, and they take that very seriously because they've witnessed the change and the incredible grace that's been put upon them, that God would pull them out of their circumstance and bring them new life and new hope. So I was very blown away by the ECTLC program. I was so happy to see that it has been successful for over 13 years, that it is in our backyard, that it is doing a great service for the desperate need of homeless people in America, and also just concentrating here in San Diego. So let me just see if there's anything else I've missed. I don't think so. I think I've touched on everything. As just a personal experience, I pulled away a lot of inspiration from this project, knowing that when God gets a hold of something, that there's nothing really that can stand in the way of its success. And you can see God's handprint or fingerprints all over this program, and how sincere and genuine all the leaders of this program are, and they are firm believers in the power of God's transformational work, transformative work, in and through them. So they shine that light very brightly, and those who come into the program are very encouraged just right off the bat. So thank you so much for listening to this video, and I hope that you are encouraged. Again, I'm going to show you the pamphlet so you can maybe look into it a little bit up. This is the East County Transitional Living Center program, providing a hand up, and these are some of the details on the back, on the location and the website. So thank you so much.